Hello all, TotenAuge here, DeadEye. I want to do a little follow-up on my last video, or not the last one that I put up, but the video that I did a while back, lockpick recommendations for the real world. I wanted to discuss with a little more clarity bottom of keyway tension, because on that video I mainly focused on picks and things, and I'll give you a couple little things to focus on regarding top of keyway. But the bottom of keyway, what I was talking about, and I'll go into it now, there are two types that are out there, and some that have become popular are the type with the three different thicknesses. So the idea is to get a better, tighter fit in your keyway. But you see, there's a problem with that. Here, I'll use this master lock as an example. I want to get the tightest fit. But first of all, one of the problems is you're not going to get into every lock, because these tend to always be the same thickness, or I'm sorry, the same width. The three different thicknesses, but the same width. And the wording becomes a problem. Like, take for example this Avis. These, even the thinnest one, is not going to fit in there. They're just not, And you have, the only way to do that for this would be to use a top of keyway tensioner that's going to be narrow enough to fit in, and miss that wording, to fit into the lock, you see. But, and even then, well, let's try this one here. There we go. See? Whereas the wiper blade style, like from Sparrows, they have the same thickness but three different widths. And here's one that just fits right in there. They're most narrow of the three, and it's just such a nice fit. Okay, the top of keyway of the thickness type simply will not fit in there as well if you have a recessed core. If you can even get it to barely bite in. Here's the ones from Multi-Pick. These are Christina Palmer's top of keyway. They're the only ones that are narrow enough to even fit into this Avis. But as you can see, there's a second problem. Even when it's narrow enough to fit in. Of course, if it's recessed, then you're kind of out of luck, because you don't have that much of the tension wrench into the core of the lock. As you can see, there's a bit of room taken away when you use the thickness type of the keyway, if you need to get into the keyway, versus when you use the type like from Sparrows. You have so much more room, sometimes 20 and 30 thousandths or more room for the pick. Okay, here's something you can probably see a little better. This master lock, you use the thickness type. Okay, even this thinnest one, you've restricted a lot of the keyway opening. Whereas when you use the wiper blade type, it kicks over, okay? You see? It kicks over, and you have that much more room to work the pick into it. And you want, the idea of the thickness type is to have the snug fit, right? Well, here's one that's their 0.1 millimeter. And they're 1 millimeter, 0.1, whatever they call it. Yeah, 1 millimeter. And you see how much it takes up of the keyway. Whereas if you use the thick width type, you have more keyway open there. And sometimes that little bit, even if it's only a few thousandths, you see, That can make you or break you regarding getting the tip of your pick underneath a pin or getting past it, and also working a rake. Because often you have to work a rake and just skim just the bottom of the pins, and when you're moving around and manipulating the pins in the lock with a rake. Now, here's another example. I'll look at this, although typically these you're going to use top of keyway only. This type, like this 1100, you use your thickness type for the bottom of the keyway. In fact, see, that's not even going to hardly go in there. This one, yeah, this one does. Let's see, you've restricted a lot of the movement. Although typically on these you're going to use top of keyway. I'm just using this as an example so you can see that versus this type. You see how much more room you have in the lock. You just have a lot more room. There's this one. You don't want to use that. You want to use this type also. This is where the width type comes in handy. You want to use the medium one. And that's the small one. Here's the medium one. You have a really good amount of room in there. This is an example. Again, the 1100 series, I always go with the top of the keyway. I'm just using the room as an example. Brinks. The width type, again, it's not going to work that well with these. They take up too much of the keyway. You see. Whereas this type, and this particular one, the standard width, even on the wiper blades, which is the widest one, it's not all that ideal for the Brinks. You want the medium one. Let's see, is this it or is this it? Let's see, here it is, right here. You have much more room in the keyway now, as you can see, to work your pick. And you have a very nice little movement there. Now there's something else with the bottom of keyway that you want to focus on when you get them. Sometimes you have to polish one corner of them. You notice this one corner, you know, this is, if you could blow up a view of that metal on the wiper blade insert style or any bottom of keyway tensioner, that one corner is the square of it. That one corner right here that rubs against the shell wall as the core is turning, I typically polish mine so they have a little smoother movement. Just this one corner right there. These I leave alone because I want a little grip. But this one here, I polish it, and if I get one really bad, which I rarely do from Sparrows, I polish it so it's nice and smooth and just kind of glides along. See, it just glides along, see, very nice. Now on the top of keyways, regarding that, the opposite is true. A lot of these, like from Southern Specialties, which are the same ones that Tool sells on their website, and Harry, lockpicking lawyer, over on Covert Instruments, these and the Longhorn type, which are the double-ended, they are a little rounded off, and that will cause slippage when you get into top of keyway, particularly if you're doing like the Lotto 410, or, but I'm just using this Brinks as an example. You get slippage. You want it to bite down on the corners, and these need to be squared off. The multi-pick ones from Christina Palmer's come squared off. They're done right. They're just perfect square, sharp, nice, crisp edges to bite into the lock. These that you will find on Covert Instruments and Tools and others, you may want to take a piece of sandpaper and just bring down just the sides, not the thickness, because you want the thicknesses for the top of keyway, but the sides, bring them in just a little bit so the corners are a little more crisp. You can probably take a block with some sandpaper on them and just rub them flat like that, and then flip it over and do that to dress them up. Of course, my top of keyway bent style tensioners from Multi-Pick, they're already squared off and they have a nice bite onto them. The bottom of keyway, of course, you want that one corner, which they have done nicely actually. They really done well at Multi-Pick. You want that one corner, just this one corner right here that rubs up against the shell sleeve there as the core turns to glide across it. At the top of keyway, you want square corners. You get these from Covert Instruments or Tool or wherever. Just be mindful of that. They're still usable. Just take a little work, just a little sandpaper. Doesn't take much, and you can make these work much better in the top of keyway. Now, regarding the no teeth, I mentioned it before, and Christina Palmer mentions it. Even back in the beginning, at the beginning of pin tumbler locks, much less books regarding these pry bar style that go back. The earliest one I saw was first published in 1955, but I'm pretty sure they were making these. We were making these ourselves back in the late 70s as well. No teeth. Somebody came up with the idea of there being teeth needed to grip the lock. Well, that's not the part that grips on the top of keyway. Okay? What grips on the top of a keyway, get this over here, are, again, as I discussed with this type, are those corners. Okay? And the sides and the corners. Not where they put teeth in here. You know, that's not needed, and all that does to these brass cores is just chew up the lock as you're working it. It just chews up that top side. And if you have some that have the teeth, you can take a piece of sandpaper or something and take those teeth out. You can see this also noted by Christina Palmer on her Elven Craft page. I do have the link to her page on my lockpick recommendations for the real world video. It's in the description. You can click on that and see what she has to say about various subjects regarding recommendations. And but yeah, they do. They just chew up your locks. And if you have to work on a lock for a while for, say, a customer, if you're a locksmith, or you're practicing at home with locks multiple times, spending hours and hours and days, however long you work that particular lock, it just is going to just chew it up. And that's not even gripped anyway. The grip is on the sides and the corners. So there you go. Anyway, that's just some real world information. That's the truth about it. Some of these other ideas, I don't know what they were thinking on it, but they really didn't think it through like Southern Specialties. When they tumble these too much in the corners around it, they need to be square for top of keyway. And putting teeth on pry bar style, you know, it's not needed. Now Peterson, these are Peterson's. He has these now that are also no teeth, and Christina Palmer's versions of the pry bar also are no teeth, and that's how they should be. It should be the fit, the thickness of it, and the crispness and sharpness of the corners. And the same are true with her pry bar style. They're nice and crisp that she has, as are these really, also from Peterson. They're nice and crisp, sharp corners for top of keyway, and they get a good bite. Again, if you have teeth on them, take them off. You know, that's just going to chew up your brass locks. Anyway, there you go. Again, don't break the law. Stay legal, and God bless you, and have a nice day, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world, and happy picking.